Hello and welcome to another episode of the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review Podcast. This is episode 122 and the Tactical Special Part 2 episode. On this show we showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else a gun enthusiast may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an unbiased and honest perspective. I'm your host, Ryan Cross from the Firearms Radio Network, your source for broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This week I have with me Tony, Steven, and Chad. How's it going, guys?
What's going on?
It's going good
great
here.
Sweet. This week we're going to be talking about more, I guess, really cool tactical stuff, which I kind of do every week, pretty much. But these are just going to be focusing on kind of more optics and, I guess, illumination this week. So to get through, first before we get into announcements, what did everyone do in guns this week? We'll start with, I'll start with Chad. What did you do in guns?
Let's see. What did I do in guns? I didn't really do anything except got some products in to do reviews on. That's about it. I mean, really, I haven't been here in 2 weeks, and I haven't been out shooting. My wife was gone last weekend, so I didn't make it out because I didn't feel like dragging kids out there. So I pretty much carried, and that was it.
Nice. How about you, Steven?
Did a little bit of dry fire. I have that dry fire training cards app on my phone because I didn't want to buy the actual cards because we live in a digital society. And so I practiced a little bit with that, had a good time with it. And I carried because I carry every day. I carry for a living, and that's what I do. So that's about it.
And Tony?
Cool. This week I didn't get to get out to the range. Had some work to do on my usual range day. So I ended up dry firing my new Smith & Wesson because I wanted to shoot it because it's cool and it's a revolver. And I went through my ammo, got it all situated and labeled and everything because with the upcoming election, people are going to get stupid. So I decided to see what I have and start ordering what I needed before it became a rush. So the only cool thing I did was get an 880 round case of 7.62 x 54 RN.
Nice.
That was awesome because I could hear my UPS guy just cursing me out as he's dropping it on the step because it weighs a ton.
Well, one of my groomsmen had a birthday, so we kind of got together and we went to Cabela's to try and pick him something out. And I had the brilliant idea. Well, it's something I've been looking at for a while, and I know we talked about it on the show. The Umarex reproduction, the Colt Peacemaker BB gun. We bought that for him at Cabela's. They had both the blued and the stainless. So we pretty much just flipped a coin and went with the stainless one. And we got him a packet of the CO2 cartridges and a thing of BBs. And then I also thought, well, we need somewhere to shoot this thing in his basement, so let's get him a BB or a pellet trap too. So we got him like a Beeman pellet trap. So of course, as soon as we got back to my place, we had to take everything out of the box and try it ourselves in my garage. So that thing is awesome. I want one real bad. It's got a good weight to it. It has these cartridges that go inside the cylinder that you could feed the BB in from the back. You don't have to remove the cartridges to insert the BB. You can just push one down in the holes in the back, but you could eject the shells and load them by hand and then reinsert them if you want. But accuracy-wise, I was really surprised. The pellet trap that we got, which of course is designed for lead pellets, so I got to find out what happens when you shoot steel BBs at it at 400 feet per second. There was some babies bouncing around. But other than that, like the BBs were like impacting the little steel targets that come with it and leaving indents in it. It's probably not steel; it's probably some kind of painted alloy, but they were leaving little tiny craters in the targets. I even used the smallest little bird that was probably about the size of a quarter, and I could hit it pretty reliably from one end of my garage to the other. So I'm really impressed with it, and I wish that I got picked one up for me too. So we boxed everything back up, and we gave that to him for his birthday, so he was pretty excited. So I did get to pull some triggers. They were just to a little air BB gun. But yeah, those things are awesome. Try them out, because you can go to Cabela's or Big Five or anyone that has them, and you can easily open the box and pull it out, kind of look at the fit and finish of it. So I think you'd be pretty pleasantly surprised at how good they feel. They don't feel like a cheap ripoff or a cheap reproduction. So anyway, that's what I did. Getting into the bandwidth sponsor or the announcements for the show. Bandwidth sponsors, of course, Firearms Radio Network, but partly Patriot Patch Company. So I added some new patches and shirts onto the website this week. So for patches, we've got the I Love Patches and Guns patch, which if you are a coffee fan, you will recognize that logo almost immediately. It's a bit of a parody. It's been parodied before quite a few times. There's the I Love Guns and Coffee. There's the I Love Guns and Bacon. So this is our patch, I Love Guns and Patches, because it couldn't be more true. So in the middle, it's got a very lovely lady who's holding an AR-15, and she's got a hat on that's got a little patch on there. We've also got the an ammo can patch for pre-order. It says ORMD, cartridge small arms, that shipping designation for dangerous materials. So it's a nice little ammo can. And then as far as the shirts go, I added a classic revolver shirt. So it's kind of got a more Western. It's a brown shirt. It's got two Colt Pythons on either side. It says nothing beats a good old-fashioned American-made classic. So you can take that to mean the revolvers or the person wearing it. We've also got a green shirt using the popular patch design, It's Dangerous to Go Alone, Take This, and it's got the M4 on there. So of course that'll be in green for the Legend of Zelda fans out there. So check those out on the website, patriotpatch.co. Next up, guests are always welcome on the show, so send me an email, gungearreview@gmail.com, if you're interested in coming on the show. And that's pretty much sums up the announcements, so let's get right into the product spotlight. So like I said, we're going to be talking mostly optics this week. It just so happened that last week I noticed Vortex put out some new products. So both of these are designed specifically for the AR-15, as well as most of their optic products are. So they released the Spark AR and the Spitfire AR. So we're going to be talking about the Spark first. So everyone knows there was the Spark first generation, and then the ever so popular Spark 2, where they kind of remapped where the buttons were. Instead of being on the side facing horizontally, now they face back toward the shooter, so when you close the case, it wasn't activating your light and draining your batteries. So now they have the Spark AR, which I guess you could consider the Gen 3. Pretty much it is designed to be more streamlined to fit on your AR-15, a little bit more competitive in the market as far as smaller profile, more streamlined, not so many features sticking out either side to get snagged on something. So with the MSRP of $259, but the retail is going to pretty much come down to $199. We've got a link on Optics Planet. And $199 is the price of the Spark 2, so there's not really an uptick in price for the new version. Have you guys gotten to take a look at this yet? What do you think?
Well, I was cruising over it. I liked how that you said something about it being more streamlined. It looks like if you go to their site and look at the pictures, they kind of made it so you can't accidentally hit the adjustment knobs on it. They kind of ramped it up and back, so it's only on the sides of the adjustment knobs, or actually what you can actually touch, I guess, which is kind of cool because you're not gonna hit it as much, maybe. It has a 2 MOA dot, which I'm kind of with Steven on this one, and that the small 2 MOA dots are nice. I don't really care for bigger dots. I think once they get over 4, you're pretty much useless. So that's my personal preference. So I like that it's got a 2 MOA dot. Uh, that's what I saw in it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the 2 MOA dots. You know, if you have a larger dot than that, 3 MOA is fine. 4, 5 MOA. If you're not going to be shooting beyond 100 yards, I'm totally good with a slightly larger dot. It gives you a little bit more brightness, the ability to see a little bit better in daylight and that kind of stuff. But 2 MOA dot, I can hit out to 300 yards all day long with a 2 MOA dot.
Oh yeah.
And it just nice and crisp. The Vortex dots, they do a really good job. So the clarity is pretty good with the Vortex dots, unless you have like an astigmatism or something. You got the little line coming off of it.
Geez, all dots for me have splay because of astigmatism, but you get used to it after a while, and that's probably why I like small dots, is because to me it looks like a 4 MOA dot.
Yeah. I like how just clean this little Spark AR is. You don't have a bunch of knobs all over the place. You don't have, freaking the turret caps sticking out too far from the optic. Conversely, we were talking about aim points, and aim points, for how awesome they are. This PRO, you can get a T1 or whatever and be right there, but that's an $800 optic. So, a little bit closer to this price range is the PRO, and it's definitely bigger, definitely more bulky. It's got this big, gigantic, knob on the side of it. It's not nearly as clean as the Spark is. You gain battery life, you gain a few different, ruggedness features that could be debated, I'm sure. But man, if I build another AR, I'm here to tell you, Vortex is where I'm looking.
Well, and it's pretty cool. Where I mean, it takes a AAA battery, which they're available anywhere, but they shoved it in the mount, so it's not even like your aim point there. You always have your switch on the side, or they shoved it in the mount, so it's literally completely out of the way. I mean, if you didn't know there was a battery there, you probably wouldn't see it.
Yep. I've been watching Vortex for years now, when they first came out with the first Spark, and I've been listening and watching reviews, reading them, and it's funny because you've watched them just work on it, listen to their customers, and get it right time after time. They move the controls from the side to the back. Now they move the battery down. They started using AAAs, which are easy to find. I mean, just over and over. Made it smaller, have a case already built around it, so it's already rubberized. Have the lens covers already there, and they are out of the way because they lock into each other above the unit. So, I mean, it's just like they listen to what people say and make the improvements and do it well at a great price point. And they do it
fast. I have never seen a company make changes and switch directions as fast as Vortex. The only other product I've ever seen that is modified with the speed that Vortex does for their entire line is that Canik TP9. One year the first gen came out, next gen came out, next year. So like in the course of 3-4 years time, you're on the 4th gen, and it's refined to the point where it's it's spot on, freaking perfect.
And I have to give it to them because at least the Canex is made in Turkey, so you just have to deal with them. This is a factory in China. This is where they have a lot of their lower or budget-minded products made, and they have to get it has to be interpreted however the interpretation of the changes they want are made. Then it has to get made, quality control checked, and sent back. I mean, and it's still covered under their VIP warranty, which means if anything happens, they'll pretty much fix it or send you a new one.
Yeah, Vortex's warranty is awesome, and that gave me great pause before I spent money on an aim point.
So yeah, this I own the Spark 2, and the next product I own the version of that also. So it's a little disappointing to me that I'm like, oh man, now I'm gonna have to upgrade my AR optics because they came out with new ones and they're so much cooler. But that's not always a terrible thing because that gives me an excuse to put my Spark 2 on something else and maybe on my more like preferred AR, but the new one on there. So I'll kind of run through the differences and similarities and improvements and differences between the new one and the Spark 2. So with the Spark 2, it came with kind of a two-piece, or technically a 3 or 4-piece unit. So you had the standard, just the regular tube itself that housed the optic, the battery. Obviously in the top, it had the larger, almost like larger than quarter turrets on for elevation and windage. And then you had the large on the left side that kind of winged out, that had the two buttons facing you. So with that, it came with a large base for you to mount it into 1/3 co-witness, and it came with a little riser that you could slide on top of that, and then put the longer screws in, and then that would make it absolute co-witness. As well as that, it also came with a low mount, so you could mount it just as low as possible to your rail, and that would be useful for like if you were hunting with a shotgun. You don't need an elevated red dot for that. You'd want it slow to the rail, so you had that option. With the Spark AR, obviously the AR is where you want a little bit higher cheek weld or higher optic for you to match your cheek weld. So you don't have that capability. It's either it starts with lower 1/3, and it comes with the insert to basically raise it up to absolute co-witness. They've also sloped the body a lot like the Aimpoint Micro with the 2, where it actually has a lot smaller, almost like maybe about 3/4 the size of a dime turrets for elevation and windage, but the body kind of slopes up to them so that you're not going to like catch those turrets on anything like a door jam or anything like that. You can still take the caps off, flip them upside down, and use them because they've got the adjustment tool built into the cap. Whereas the Vortex Spark 2, those caps were, even though they were tethered, and I guess they did have that tool as well, but it was the brightness setting that moved also. So in the Spark AR, your controls for controlling the brightness are basically on the back side of the mount, just below the eyepiece. So in line with the battery, pretty much. It is still compatible with magnifiers. So if you have a magnifier that you've used with your Spark 2, you could easily replace it with this, and you still have the same adjustment for lower third and absolute, where you can get it to line up with your magnifier just perfectly. The only caveat to that is you might have to flip your magnifier out of the way to adjust your brightness up and down, or at least hopefully there's enough room for you to put your finger in between the two to actuate those two buttons. So the total weight of the Spark AR is 7.5 ounces, whereas the Spark 2 had a weight of, wait for my browser to load that page, 5.9 ounces. So even though it did streamline it a little bit, it did go up in weight, probably because the integrated battery housing and the larger battery. Obviously, it went from the what battery was the the Spark 2? It was that CR 2032.
2.3.
123.
Yeah.
And then it went, yeah. So it goes to the AAA. As far as battery life goes, the new Spark AR's battery life, it's got a 12-hour shutdown automatically. But at maximum brightness, it's at 300 hours, and at minimum brightness, it's 5,000 hours. The Spark 2 had pretty much the same specs across the board: 300 for the high output and 5,000 for the low output. Other than that, I do agree that the lens cover is a little bit nicer. The ones that come with the Spark 2, mine seemed that the inner ridge that prevents it from going too far onto the lens kind of broke, so I can never snap one lens closed. I got to kind of pull it out, then snap it closed, and then push it flush against the lens. So it's nice that they've addressed that with a much more minimalistic, almost like a bikini mount, but it kind of stays with the optic, so it just kind of hangs out on the side until you choose to flop it over your objective and eyepieces. Other than that, it still uses the Torx head screw for tightening it down on your rail. Still O-ring sealed to prevent moisture, dust, and debris from getting inside, just like the other ones. Operating temperature -4 degrees to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. Other than that, I think it's kind of a really nice design. You guys have any more observations about this one?
What are the adjustments on it? Are they half MOA?
No, it's 1 MOA is what it says.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay, I missed that. Oh well, that's my problem, not anybody else's. Man, the fact this thing takes AAA battery is it's making me very excited. I love it when you can get a freaking optic that takes a regular freaking battery. And the whole 12-hour auto shut-off, I actually saw a video where they explained why it's a 12-hour versus a 4 versus an 8 versus a whatever. And the question the rep asked was, well, what's the average police officer's shift? It's a 12-hour shift. So you can turn on your optic at the beginning of your shift, put your rifle in the rack, and you could completely forget to shut it off at the end of your shift, and you're good to go. It'll shut off by itself. So it'll stay on for your entire shift. If I was going to kind of shove this optic on my rifle and stick it in the closet, or be carrying it around in the vehicle subject to different temperatures, I'd probably get one of those the Energizer lithium batteries. Those tend to be less subject to temperature extremes, and they have better shelf life, storage life than regular alkalines do.
Yeah.
Well, that's the good thing about it. It'll work with any AAA battery. So even rechargeables, if you want to do that.
Yep. I live on rechargeable everything now.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, they really knock it out of the park with this. And, of course, me being tactically frugal, I'm keeping my eye on anything from Vortex anyway when it comes to an optic.
Dude, I wish this thing was out 3 months ago. I really wish this was out 3 months ago.
You know what they need to do, though, is they need to put, a USB port in it so you can charge it while it's in your rack in your car.
Yeah. They need to freaking Bluetooth it.
Yeah.
So you can adjust everything through your phone. Where's TJ? TJ, make that happen. If you can hear this, make it happen.
All right. If you could upload custom reticles, so if I want the Predator, like 3 dots, would be pretty cool.
That
pretty
would be
useless.
Disgusting.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, TJ said he'd like to use Bluetooth mainly because he can't use knobs because he keeps cutting the tips off of his fingers. So,
Nice.
Oh, you're an evil man.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if this didn't say Spark 2 on the side and have the little Vortex icon, I would assume it's an implant product because of just the overall shape and all the lines in it. So it's good that they're staying competitive and they're doing what Vortex does best. They're making quality products that you could compare to the higher end competitor, but it's a fraction of the price. So good on them for that. And in that spirit, we're going to talk about their very next new product. So this one I'm a little bit more bummed about because I had just gotten it. So we're talking about the Spitfire. It's their Prism optic. I just got the Prism 3 power. So it's a little different because this new Prism, or the Spitfire AR, is just a one-time Prism scope. So it's not exactly what I got, and I chose to get the 3 power because I kind of wanted like a poor man's ACOG. But this is another option for the ER-15 owners out there. Of course, there was the Gen 1 Spitfire one power scope, but this one is just like the Spark AR, has been better streamlined for the AR platform. The reticle difference, pretty much the same reticle. They call it the DRT MOA, dual ring tactical, but everyone calls it the donut reticle.
Guilty.
So, yeah, can't argue with that. So the donut reticle, as we have here on the show notes, basically you've got a 3 MOA dot in the very center, and it's surrounded by, the inner circle is 6 MOA in thickness, and then you've got an outer circle that's 3 MOA in thickness. So it really helps kind of focus your eye right on the middle in just milliseconds. And the nice thing about it being a prism scope is that it's etched onto the prism, so that even if you do not have the illumination activated, you could still utilize it in bright daylight and not have to worry about, is it on, is it off. You could use it during the daytime without any kind of batteries or activation of batteries. Have you guys taken a look at this yet? Of course you have.
Naturally.
Naturally. What do you think?
Yeah.
We don't prepare. We don't look at this stuff. What are you talking about?
Same question with the Spark. Is this a one-way adjustment or is this half?
It's half.
Okay. I would hope so. This is lending itself to being more of a. I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. A long-range red dot.
Yeah, I knew what you were gonna say, but I thought you were gonna say precision. No.
No,
even
that word's
they,
getting up there
they
with
say
tactical.
Yeah, they're saying it too. Talking about being able to adjust out to 700 yards. Is that what they just said?
That's what they said.
That's what
yeah,
it said.
Because it's actually got the whole bullet drop. I can only assume somewhere in some manner of literature, it's got the layout of what everything is to utilize that reticle as a bullet drop.
It says it's the yardage marked turret cap for the 5.56 allows you rapid dialing of known distance shots out to 700 yards.
So you're just using that. You're using the elevation as a BDC.
Right.
Yeah, so it actually is a highly tactical, dynamic, long-distance precision red dot. Did I get them all in? Did I get all the taglines in you could possibly get in for advertising?
I think so.
Okay.
But, if I buy another red dot, so to speak, this is probably what I'm going to get, though. By the time I buy it, it'll probably be the Spitfire AR version 2 or something, but either way, I really like the function of having an etched reticle so that when I forget to change the batteries, even though I know that, I'm supposed to, that, I can still use it, which is always a good thing. And, there's a few other things that are nice. You do probably, it has an eye relief because it is not just like a mini red dot. So you kind of have to view it a little different than like just a red dot, but it's on a rifle, so you're sticking your cheek down there anyway. So like that function too. You know, it gives you red or green illumination settings, so you can do whichever you prefer. You know, it also has been changed to a AAA battery, and also like the Spark AR, the battery goes in the mount. So, you know, they did that with this Spitfire too, which is I like. It's not as streamlined, but what can you say? It's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, the big strength with prismatic scopes, because they have that etched reticle, is that, like, the reason why I wear glasses, honestly, is because I have astigmatism, and a lot of people do. If you have a red dot, that's where you commonly get that starburst effect, is that it kind of flares out. You don't get that with an etched reticle because the light is basically reflecting off of it's catching that etching. And so it's going to be nice and crisp as opposed to some kind of red dot or holographic dot. So that's a big advantage there to this. It does not have any adjustment for absolute co-witness or lower 1/3 co-witness. You don't typically try and co-witness backup iron sights with a prism scope. It's got that etched reticle, so if your batteries go out, you don't need to default to iron sights. You can just use the regular black etching. You cannot really use a magnifier with a prism scope. It's funny. Some optical lines get crossed there, and it doesn't really help you out at all. But besides that, it seems to be the same weight and length as the original Spitfire one-time scope, and in fact, what I'm reading in the Q&A on Vortex's website, that they intend to discontinue the Spitfire one-time scope and replace it with the Spitfire AR scope. So they'll still have the Spitfire 3x prism scope, and I don't know if they intend to change the look of that at all to be streamlined like these AR models. The battery life is 250 hours at the maximum brightness and 3,000 hours at the minimum, which is exactly the same as the original Spitfire 1x, and that was using the other battery.
The 2032.
Yeah, which just kind of went in the illumination turret. So the original had rails. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the 3-power. The 3-power had rails on there, but the original did not. It still had capped turrets, whereas the new one just kind of did away with the capped turret system, and it's got a little bit larger turrets, but they've got knurled covers on them for good grip or traction with your hand, but no, they're not tethered in any way. So it's pretty much just the same thing with the battery placement. The compartment is actually in the mount below the optic, so you access that from the front of the sight. And as far as the mount goes, it has two crossbar or two bolts that act as the crossbars to fit into your Picatinny rail. So that's about it. I don't think we mentioned the MSRP on this guy. So MSRP is $349 retail, looking about $249. So we've got a link to Optics Planet where you can find that. Someone put a Optics Planet article in the show notes, but the pictures look like the original Vortex. So I'm not sure if that's about the new Spitfire AR or just the old Spitfire. Looks like the old Spitfire.
We'll blame TJ.
We'll blame TJ. But all in all, it looks like a very decent upgrade to that. A lot of times I've working behind the counter at Cabela's and showing people optics. You know, they I think the Spitfire was a pretty good seller. A lot of people like that donut reticle. They like the fact that they could go turn on the red brightness. It's got 12 variable settings as opposed to the Spark has 10, so you can go up to 12. It's got the same nitrogen gas purging, O-ring seals for fog-proof, waterproof performance. Yeah, good scopes.
It's night vision compatible, if you care.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yeah, the only downside for me is that it's got the eye relief, but I don't have the eye issues that a lot of other people do. Yeah, that all three of you do. So I'm totally fine with an unlimited eye relief red dot optic. But I learned something new tonight, and I didn't know about the whole prism scopes because I just saw them and immediately dismissed them because they were something different. But now that's going to help me a lot in my recommendations to people because I have a lot of people around me that shoot, that wear glasses, and they want to run a red dot, but have told me that they can't. And I always understood why, but I didn't know that there was something like this out there that could work with that.
Yep. So yeah, the weight is the same as the old one too, with being 11.2 ounces. Yeah, it does turn red and green. I just had to check on that. So you've got if you wanted to do green, I've heard it kind of works better when it's a little bit more cloudy and overcast. Red works pretty well in pretty much clear skies. It kind of depends on your personal preference. I like to use green when it's in kind of like the wintertime. Red I like to use when it's lower light and at night. It seems like in the bright daytime, if you live in the desert area, kind of everything around you is kind of hued in that tan orange color. Green sometimes to me helps a little bit better than red. But you have the...
Actually, I was...
Go ahead.
I was actually watching something today, and they were talking about the difference between red lasers and green lasers. And it's just, they have the same brightness, but our eye picks up green a lot quicker and easier than it picks up red.
On the ultraviolet spectrum, green is a lot closer to the visual light than red. Red gets closer to the ultraviolet, and green is closer to the other end of the spectrum, literally. So,
Well,
pretty
look
cool.
At you, science and stuff.
Yeah, science, mathematical.
Yeah, some really good stuff. Vortex, man, these guys, they're doing it.
Yep. So next up, we got a micro red dot or mini red dot for those who are interested. Of course, you've got the burst fast fires, and now you've also got the vortex venoms, and what's the other vortex? That's a micro red dot, not venom, but maybe it's called the Viper.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look for another red dot that we really haven't talked about yet. We talk about, seems like a lot of them. They're all getting kind of better. There's still some cheaper ones out there. A lot of people think that if you spend under $200 on a mini red dot, you wasted your money, and eventually you're going to want to replace it with something that costed more and it was better construction. So I kind of checked up on our friends over at Adaball. They're not really friends, but I remember talking quite a bit about their kind of imitation ACOG scope, and that was a good conversation there. But I was looking at their new products, and I noticed that they had their own mini red dot out. So it's called the AT-MRD mini red dot. MSRP is for $119.99, so $120. It's got 5 brightness settings, compatible with burst fast fire mounts, parallax corrected for precision, accuracy, wide field of view, low power consumption, lightweight, shockproof, and it's got a memory function, so when you power it off, whatever brightness setting you were at, it's going to power up at that same brightness setting. So pretty much it's got a lifetime warranty. I sure hope it would. It's recoil tested, and it says it's water resistant. So pretty much it has a mount, a Picatinny mount. So if you wanted to mount it onto the rails of your whatever gun you have, if you have any kind of handgun that's got a rail on top, like a Desert Eagle, or if you've got an optic that has rail on it. So if you had a kind of like an auxiliary red dot to your magnified optic, a lot like even if you had the Adaball ACOG knockoff, but if you had like the Vortex prism scope or the Burris AR prism scopes, they have kind of rails that kick off to the side to give you like a 45-degree fast red dot mount. You could use that there. You can remove it from this Picatinny mount, and then, like I said earlier, it is compatible with the Burris Fastfire mounts. So you could whatever kind of slide you have, like Glock or a Smith & Wesson M&P, you could pretty much get the corresponding Fastfire mount and mount this right onto the slide of your favorite handgun. What do you guys think about this one?
I started doing some research when I got the show notes on the brand, and I haven't really come up with much. Mostly it's people on forums asking questions about the brand, and then, in proper forum fashion, being shot down for even considering such an inferior piece of equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. I did the same thing, but I went to YouTube for my idiots.
Oh.
And I ran across a guy who did a torture test on their other mini red dot. And what he did was leave it in the sink for like an hour, threw it in the freezer directly afterwards and froze it, pulled it back out, threw it off his roof. He beat it up pretty badly, and it wasn't this one, it was another one, and I just started looking at their product line.
The NVRD?
This one was the MCRD, AT-MCRD. And I just watched them beat it up, and it still worked, including, of course, the great run it over with the truck thing. So he rolled over it with a vehicle, and it was still working. So I just went by what else was done with their product line, and the only thing I ever saw done with this this MRD was they mounted it on their 3-power. That was the only thing I actually saw them do with it. Oh, and also I think they used the other one to shoot it on the Desert Eagle. They didn't use this one.
Yeah,
This is new.
Yeah, you never really hear much about this brand, but this actual sight, I don't know. It only has 5 brightness settings, and from past experiences, I've found that a lot of times if they only have 5 brightness settings, you're almost always using the brightest one. It seems like they always seem to be dim, but then you go to something like the Vortex we talked about with like 8 or 10 or 12, and they always seem to show up better. It's just past experience. I'd really like to look through one of these to see, and you can never quite tell in a store. You need to take it outside, look at the sun with it,
Yeah.
Well, I figure with the price point.
Yeah.
So I know Holosun was making like all the primary arms optics. Anybody have any knowledge on if other brand optics? Because they look awfully familiar.
Well, yeah, they're probably.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like almost everything, they're probably made in China, and it's only as good as the quality control at Adaball is. So, that's my guess. So they might be made by the same people.
Yep, truthfully, it might come off the same product line. They just have different stickers they put on them. Never doubt that could happen.
Yeah,
well,
not in China, no.
Well, before we start,
We do it here. Hello, Deer Park and Poland Springs.
One thing that this has that's a little bit more unique to some of those other cheaper red dots out there is that it has a defined click adjustment, which you really don't really see too much in the micro red dots. They usually have, if anything, some printed hash marker lines, kind of in a clock shape, where you put in your screwdriver and then you kind of pay attention to where the slot is for your adjustment. So it's actually got click adjustment. It does not need any special tools to adjust the windage or elevation. That's something you do not see on some of these cheaper Chinese optics.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ryan, because I noticed that too and was going to mention it if nobody else had. I thought that was kind of neat because you don't need a special tool or anything. A lot of them, you need like a super small screwdriver or some weird adjustment tool.
Yeah.
And it's got a little digital button for the reticle settings, which is kind of neat. It looks like you can see it kind of in some of the pictures up on the left-hand side. So that looks kind of cool.
Well, I was looking at this thing, and my thing is, because I did the cheap mini red dot. It was an airsoft thing. That's the only reason I got it. But when I got my Ruger 1022, I tried to put that on there, and it was horrible. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't hold together. But now at this price point that this is going for, and then with the Strike Industries universal gun mount that they have, this pretty much gets you into a red dot on your pistol for less than $200.
Yep. And the only other option out there that I would say competitively is the red field accelerator. And I will say that the accelerator has some pros and cons compared to something like this. Obviously, the hood that the lens is kind of fitting into on this Add-A-Ball, it's got a lot more metal housing there. So in theory, if you drop it, you've got more metal housing there to provide structure to that sight, whereas the accelerator has a lot more minimal metal there for that hood. So there's that concern. But the primary difference when it comes to the game of micro red dots, really what I find most important is how do you swap the battery, and do I have to remove the sight from the mount to swap out the battery, thus breaking my zero? If I do have to do that, does it return to zero when I replace it back on there? And so that's something that they addressed with these the Burris Fastfire 3, as well as the Vortex Accelerator, is that you could basically access the battery without taking apart the entire mount. Removing it from its mounting plate and getting to the battery underneath. So it looks like with this one, I'm not seeing it in the features. I do know that it uses a CR2032 battery, but looking at the picture, looking at the picture, I don't see any kind of coin slot on the top, so it looks like you will have to remove it.
I watched them take it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I watched them remove it from the universal mount onto their 3 power, and you have to take it completely off, and the battery's there. You have to put it on. It loads under the bottom.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not seeing any kind of advertised battery life for the performance of that, and how many times you will need to replace that battery if you use it a whole lot.
I didn't see an auto off function either.
Yeah, but for $120, maybe those 2 features aren't something that you're necessarily worried about.
Right.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I say it again. This will either get you something like a 22 airsoft, or even let you know if you want to get into having a red dot on your pistol. I mean, it's not a huge investment like some of the other more expensive red dots. You know what I mean? Like you'll find something to do with this.
Yeah, if you don't have to pay to have your slide milled out and pay for a RMR, this is the gateway drug. No, man, like. And
it also gets you in on.
Go ahead, Tony.
I don't know if he froze up. We didn't catch that, Tony.
What'd you say, man?
Oh, I'm sorry. Something like this gets you also into something like a rimfire shoot if you want to go check that out. And you have Picatinny rail on something like a Ruger pistol or a Ruger 22 pistol. This pops right on top, and there you are. Again, $100
this would be
investment.
fantastic on top of like a Browning Buckmark or something like that.
Yep, exactly. Or the new Smith & Wesson, Victory?
Yeah, Victory or Ruger Mark III.
I'm not seeing anything, looking at the pictures and reading everything about it that would lead me to believe that it's complete and utter garbage. So that's a good thing. No, I mean, I like this little thing. And the fact that, what you mentioned, the adjustments actually have the click to them. Nobody else is doing that. I just quickly looked over at the primary arms competition, and it's. I would go with this Atomall over that one, even if this is like in general, that level of quality, and for the price, I would assume that it is. I'd be perfectly okay with it, especially on a rimfire gun.
Yep. So yeah, we got the link to that in the show notes if you're interested. The only thing is it's got their logo on the front and back, as well as the model name on the left and right hand side. So it's pretty obvious to everyone at the range. You're kind of like a walking billboard with how many kind of logos and designations are on that thing. But besides that, it seems pretty good.
Birchwood Casey Black Pad will fix that.
That's right. So next up, we're going to get into lighting. Talked about quite a bit of Surefire stuff in the last few episodes. I wanted to give Streamlight some love, talk about, because it seems like whenever I bring up a flashlight on the show, Tony's like, man, I want more lumens, man. Give me the lumens. So today I made sure I found a fairly new flashlight that delivered on some of those lumens that he so craves. So this is the Streamlight TLR2 HLG, and it blasts 800 lumens for maximum illumination while clearing a room or whatever you want. Mounts onto a pistol dust cover, as well as you could mount it onto, I guess, like any kind of Picatinny rail on a carbine or whatnot. So my first question is, Tony, is 800 lumens enough?
It's adequate.
It's adequate. All right. That's what I thought. So it's got an MSRP of $590, give or take.
Oh.
And then the retail, though, I found it on Amazon for $308. So that being said, let's hear your guys' take on it.
What, did you mention that it has a green laser with it?
I didn't mention any of the features at all.
Yeah. It looks like it's their top-of-the-line small pistol-mounted light. Sorry. And, they make the TLR1 HL, which is also the same without, of course, the laser. But this has a green laser in it also, which is pretty cool. TLRs, for the price, are pretty much the go-to handgun light. I mean, they've been around forever. I mean, so a new one, big deal. Now it's brighter. That's what everybody wants, So, especially Tony. You can shine 100 lumen light in my face and I'm going to stop. But, 800 lumens on this thing. It's an LED. Runs for an hour and a half on the light part. If you only want the laser, it'll run 17 hours. So looks like you can't really ever tell, but it's probably got good throw on the light and probably lights up everything around it. So, that's always good. It takes 2 CR123 batteries, which are pretty much standard for lighting. That's all. It's, so I'm not going to go through the rest. I'll let somebody else do that. But as far as it goes, if you want a light laser combo, you can't go wrong for $308 or whatever. Ryan said he found it on Amazon for.
So
Yeah,
these,
that price is fantastic.
I think it's about $100 for TLR3. Obviously, that doesn't have a laser on there, and my TLR1S I bought maybe like 5 years ago. I think that was about maybe like 150. So this has definitely got all the features you would possibly want or need for anything from your home defense handgun, pistol, if you want to be able to illuminate and use your target, or if you're a professional or you work in security or you're doing some night shooting training, this would be a good addition to any one of your handguns as well as your carbines. So just to give you guys like a little clue, if you've never had a Streamlight, they basically come with these keys that you swap out and insert where the clamp is. So there's different keys with kind of different letters, and those letters correspond with different manufacturers. So there's a Glock style, there's a regular Picatinny style, there's a Beretta 92, a Smith & Wesson 99, Smith & Wesson TSW. And basically, those different keys make sure that the activation paddles that go on either the left or the right side of your trigger guard, it's kind of ambidextrous, they ensure that they're going to kind of snug up against your trigger guard, not be too far out or obviously too close to where you can't put this into that lug and the rail and then clamp it down. Other than that, they're really nice sights. Like I said, you can activate it with your trigger finger. On the right side, you just kind of take it off the trigger and put it forward of the trigger guard, and you can catch that paddle. It can go either up or down to activate it. Or what I like to do is use my support hand and use either the thumb if I'm using the grip where you're basically overlapping your knuckles, and you can get it with your support hand thumb to activate it that way. They are compatible with optional accessories for like a remote switch. Those are sold separately, obviously. Operating temperature minus 40 degrees all the way up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. They are IPX4 water resistant, and a user programmable strobe can be enabled or disabled. The strobe on these things is freaking awesome. Like, it is a lot more disorienting than just a solid beam. Honestly, I do it kind of for show when I'm showing somebody the light. It's like, this is normal mode, and this is rave mode. Exactly. And then it can fit existing light-bearing holsters, which obviously Streamlight having these TLR2s out. If you wanted to carry it inside the waistband or outside the waistband in a holster, all you got to do is go to the holster manufacturer's website and pick the right combination. So a lot of them have Streamlight TLR2. They take their blue guns, they strap the light onto them, and then they mold the kayaks around that. So there's a lot of those out there if you wanted to be able to carry it with the light on there.
But will it fit on an H&K USP?
I would not know the answer to that.
Would a little Dremel work? Yes.
Yeah. No, because H&K hates you.
See, there's a compatibility list that I'm bringing up right now. So the GL key kind of fits Glock rails. 1913. Let's see, Smith & Wesson, Beretta 92. So let's see, there's Beretta CX4 Storm, PX4 Storm, the Vertec, the CZ PO1, FN57, any Glock with rails. It cannot fit Glocks that are not equipped with rails. Go figure.
Sorry, Tony.
Sorry, Tony. Yeah. HK USP full size uses their HK adapter 69085 with a Glock standard key, or if you have a USP compact, uses a different HK adapter with the Glock standard key. So there you go. It just takes an extra adapter to be able to work with it. HK P2000 is supposed to have a Picatinny rail. The P30 just uses the 1913 rail. Obviously, if you've got any other, the Rugers, the SR9 uses the Glock key. SIGs, if they're 1911, they just use the Picatinny key. Any aluminum frame SIG with a round bottom rail, including the P220R or the 229R, etc., pretty much use the 1913. So yeah, they've got a whole list here in case you're worried. If you've got a Smith & Wesson Sigma, cannot fit. Any Smith & Wesson M&Ps use the standard Picatinny key. The XDs, it will not fit the 3-inch barrel XD, so only the 4 and 5-inch barrels, and they just use the standard Glock key. Walters, the 99s, only the new 2004 and newer models. Full size, older ones cannot be fitted with the TLR because there's no slot across the rail, and the side grooves closed or in the front. Cannot fit the P222 or the compact P99. So there you go.
Woo!
Woo!
No high point?
No high point. They didn't want to disgrace themselves by even mentioning.
Dude, you can put it on a high point. You just gotta use duct tape.
Duct tape.
Yeah, if you've got a high point, you're going to go tape anyway. So you've got the ambidextrous controls, the momentary steady on or off switch. You could put it up in one direction, it'll be momentary on. As soon as you relieve pressure, it's going to go back to its neutral position and be off, or you can rotate it in the other direction, it'll be a steady on, so you can put your finger back on the trigger or use your sport hand for something else while still having that illumination. Overall, it's arguably one of the better handgun-mounted light systems that are out there. It's pretty much a standard. There's a few that come pretty close in comparison, but Streamlights are like they are the best thing since I don't know the best thing since stippled grips. Would that be a good comparison?
Ooh,
not sliced
nice.
bread because you're gluten free.
Whatever. What I discovered, I hope Streamlight weapons mounted lights are better than Streamlight flashlights because I've broken 3 of those. So I have no idea. I want to find out one day. It's on my list of things to get. I'm going to have to get a weapons mounted light eventually. That's a real weapons mounted light. But
what are you breaking, the stingers?
I do have to say we do find ourselves sometimes way too caught up in this lumen war, because 5 years ago a lot of lumens was 200. Now we're up to 800, and now it's going to be over 1,000. And it's like, seriously, you still have to use your retinas after this is over with. I'm just saying. Technology is getting to a place where it's cheaper and cheaper to make higher lumen lights, and also advertisers getting to the point that they're lying about the number of lumens they have, and also about the battery life that those lumens have. You know what I mean? The flashlight has at those lumens. So if you're taking a 4-hour class, you might have to change batteries before it's over with your 850 to 1,000 lumen light. Just saying.
Yep.
The fact that they shoved a green laser in here is very exciting. We were talking earlier about the different colors of lasers and which is more visible to the human eye. I've never really been a big fan of lasers, or red lasers. And the only time I have ever had any practical use with a laser is the infrared one that I had strapped to my M4. So, and that was only visible in night vision. But the green ones I've always thought were very cool. I've always been able to pick them up. You go to a gun show or whatever, and you shine it across the showroom floor. And every time I can pick up that green laser, and
immediately.
Streamlight is no BS. I've never had any negative experience with any of their products. I've had stingers. I've got a little Stylus Pro that I'll carry around as my little EDC light. I've got experience with the TLR1, the original TLR1 that was like the 60 lumen Kraton bulb or whatever it is, Xenon bulb, which was awesome. I love that light. But man, my how things have progressed Now we're at light. This being a weapon-mounted light, it's going to have a pretty good spot to it, but it'll have a good secondary throw, I'm sure. The other TLR series lights that I've seen and fiddled with have been that way. So they make a pretty decent aiming device in and of themselves without the laser. Man, I think I'm going to have to get the TLR1 HL. Those things are coming in anywhere from 140 to 180 with the whole weapon light kit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was looking on Amazon while you guys were talking and at the TLR2 HL, which is the one without the laser, basically, the 800 lumen one. And they still had the old specs of last year of 600 and some, so they must have upped it a little. But even those for 620 lumens or whatever they were like $120.
Yeah.
You know, for what you get, that's dirt cheap.
I want to know if they've upped the TLR3s at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were all doing the exact same thing. We were looking at
feverishly Googling.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that.
I'm sorry, the TLR3 is still only 125 lumens.
Well.
Yeah, but some people really don't like Tony said. If you're using it primarily indoors on your home defense flashlight, you still need to preserve your eyes. If you just woke up from a sleep, your pupils are pretty much fully dilated. So you immediately slam on 800 lumens inside your white-walled apartment. You're gonna get quite a bit of kind of blowout with your retinas, and you're going to need to adjust your eyes. So good news is whoever's breaking into your home, if it is in fact someone breaking into your home and not like your daughter's boyfriend trying to sneak out, you're going to pretty much blind them as well as a little bit yourself if you're not diligent with, not pointing it straight at the wall in front of you or shining it in a mirror, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like this light, it's 140 lumens, and you can see how much it lights it up.
Sure.
So
ready for this? 920.
Yeah, it just lights up. Yeah.
In a double A sized light.
Nice.
It is compatible with the remote door switches, so you can put a tape switch on it on a shotgun or a rifle. They've actually got a 12 gauge mag tube mount for it. It's pretty neat stuff available for these TLRs.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, again, when you get up to the 800, 1000 lumen, we're talking outside mostly. Because again, with a 250 lumen light, you can light up a regular size room, especially
easily.
your own house.
Well, we can do it just fine with the 60 lumen, xenon bulb ones.
Yeah,
60 exactly. Lumen back then was freaking eye searing.
Hey, understand that I'm old school, and we had mag lights duct taped to the side of AR-15s.
I may or may not have done that once or twice.
So, I mean, we've gotten better. The technology's gotten smaller. The lights have gotten brighter. But when you are spending your own money, take into effect how much you really need for something before you go, I have to have the latest and the greatest for my home defense. There are other things you may be able to spend your money on instead of the latest and the greatest if you don't have it. If you do, spend money.
Like training.
Yes, please, God. Can people get trained a little bit? Just because you hunt does not mean you should be firing your rifle or shotgun inside the house near your wife and kids.
Yeah, not so much.
Amen. So we got the link to that in the show notes.
Fighting with a gun is different than with a gun.
True. Yeah, because the core's aluminum cans don't really shoot that. They've already done your damage when you drank them in the first place.
Exactly.
So we got a review for this week. It's not an optic or a illumination, but it's still pretty useful. So Chad, you go ahead and take it away.
You say it's pretty useful. Did you read the review?
It's useful. I'm sorry. I meant it's useful information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to review this. What it is it's a 1022 mag from HC Mags, and it's called their HC3R magazine. Basically, it's a 25-round 1022 magazine that has a few extra features to it. I'm going to explain them, not really like in the review, but because I can actually show people what's going on here. And what it is it looks like a 25-round magazine, but if you look right now, in the one I'm holding up, so if you ever go to the video, you'll see that it's got some 22 shells along the side of it. And what that does is this back pulls off of here, and it's kind of like a little stripper clip. So what you can do with it is theoretically you can slide it over here, and now you have a clip of shells. So what you do is then this has this fancy little knob on the side. You can pull the knob down, twist it 90 degrees, it locks it down. Then you can stick this back on here with the shells in it, which kind of works. And it locks on there. And then you can release this, and it supposedly shoves these shells up. Which it does actually shove them up, which is pretty cool. So theoretically, you can load 25 rounds in the magazine, and this little side saddle piece will hold 20 extra rounds. So all you theoretically have to do after you shoot them is just kind of pull this back, unload it, and run the little lever back down, slide it on, load some more in. Okay. Well, it sounds all fine and dandy until you actually go to use it. And they have a video on their website that shows you how to load these things, because I guess they have common problem with 22 mags is the rims will go over themselves. And if that happens, then you're never going to feed anything. But the problem I found with these is that they don't want to feed. No matter how many times you try this, I could only get like 2 or 3 shots out of it before it would jam again. It didn't matter what kind of ammo. Didn't matter if it was good ammo, cheap ammo. A lot of times they would nose down. Couldn't ever get them any kind of ammo to work with just 25 rounds in it. When I went to about 20 rounds, it would work 3 or 4 times. So now that you've seen the pictures of it, I can explain more of it. This is actually the second version of this magazine. I originally had seen them months ago at a local gun store, and I was intrigued. And I'm like, I'll spend the $30 on one. So I bought one. It worked not at all. I mean, literally jammed every time, even if you load them in the old-fashioned way by hand. Still would jam, no problem. So I emailed them. They said, okay, well, we have a new version coming out. So 6 months later, they sent me one and said, okay, here's the new one. And, well, it was slightly better. So I still cannot get this magazine to run. Different rifles, different ammo, watch their videos over and over, still doesn't run good. So I figured, okay. I guess I just kind of had to write off the $30 I spent on it. I have actually talked to people that some of them work. So I think it's kind of hit or miss if you actually get one that works. I took it apart because you can take them apart to see if there were any notches or anything maybe hitting on. I couldn't see anything. The feed lips kind of looked like any other steel-lipped 10/22 magazine. So there was that. It just doesn't live up to what it was good for. So I'll go over the Firearms Insider 8 key points. The claim to fame is it's a quick reloading 10/22 magazine with the little side saddle thing. Target market, anybody who wants extra capacity, 10/22 mags. I suppose they'd work in a 77/22, anything that takes 10/22 mags. The features and benefits offers quick reloading with the stripper clips that are included. It comes with an extra one, so you don't just have the one and it has an extra one. So you can have it loaded also. It has this lockable thumb stud, which actually is probably one of the nicer features. It gives you extra ammo on hand in the magazine, if it worked. And you can disassemble it for cleaning, which is also a nice function. What other aesthetic options are available? Basically, they have what they call a tactical pack, which comes with a magazine, a holder, a bunch of stripper clips, and some sort of stripper clip loader. I got a couple what others are saying. There's one from Tactical. The guy gave it 2 of 5 stars. It says cumbersome. This magazine is difficult to load for me. I found bullets jamming during the loading process and falling out of the rib clip, which is what they call the stripper clip thing I said, and out of the extra holding channel when I didn't hold it properly. For me, it is more of a hassle than it's worth. But then we got one from Cabela's where they gave it 5 of 5 stars. It says awesome and innovative. There's not much real fun in loading, but this system these folks have developed is simply amazing. Follow their instructions and get a couple extra magazines, and the system will let you shoot all day, and even for days it is effortless. Note, the note in here is just for the listing at Cabela's. They listed it as a 20 round, not a 25, which it is. And it says, I hope Cabela's gets the HC Mag tactical kit, which I mentioned earlier, but others need to know about it. I don't work for HC, just an impressed customer of their products and a fan of Cabela's. Additional note, some may say that having an open exposed magazine makes it not worth it, but considering how much more one typically shoots with a 22, I see the value in making the loading delays and efforts go away and getting back to shooting more important. Plus, it's a breeze to clean, and frankly, most of any significant debris easily going in can fall out the same way. Mud is mud, and play safe. So the price point, MSRP is $29.95. Retails $30 at Botac Tactical. Cabela's also has them. I think they were $30. Need it now availability. You can go to HC Mags and buy one. Our rating. The pros is the stripper clip is a great idea, so I gave it a pro for that. It's a steel-lipped magazine, not the super cheap plastic ones. You can load it super easy. Now, if it fed, it'd be a different story. And it comes apart for cleaning. The cons, I could not get it to feed properly at all. Watched their videos, read their emails, nothing. And the other thing is you shouldn't have to watch, it shouldn't need special loading. All my other 10/22 magazines, I just crank them in with the loader or just shove the rounds in them. They all work fine, so, I couldn't see that. And I actually gave it a score of 4, which is bad. I really liked the concept. If it didn't have better concept, I would have. That's why I gave it a 4 and not something lower. But like I said, it's hit or miss, so I guess buy it your own thoughts. Any questions?
I don't know.
No.
How do they not think that stripper clip system would not induce rim lock for like every single round?
You don't ask me.
I was just sitting here watching you do it, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But it's going to rim lock every single round. At the very least, every other is going to be locked up. That just
Right.
Okay.
And I'm sitting here going, okay, I spend $30. I spend $30 for this, or I can go on grab a gun and buy 25 round mags for $18.
Well, the thing
And
is
just load them.
Just the other day, here they had on sale the Butler Creek plastic lipped magazines for $10 a piece.
No.
You know,
but freaking
really,
Ruger BX25 mags are rock stars.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is, what's list price on those? $30, $29.99, and they work flawlessly. I'm with you.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
So you can check out that review on the firearmsinsider.tv website.
The new website.
The new website. So as far as... Thanks, man.
It does look good.
So for the tech gadget or app for this episode, I found something from Caldwell that they just put out. It's a long-range target camera. We've talked about those quite a bit on this show. So Caldwell is getting into that game now. So for a total cost of $499.99, so it's definitely not cheap like you would assume something when you pick up a Caldwell something or other at Cabela's or Bass Pro or any other kind of big box sporting goods store. You would assume it would be like a really affordable option for whatever task it's supposed to accomplish. So $500, it's still a lot of money. But basically, it comes with a camera that lets you face it toward your target downrange. It's connected to a receiver that you set up, and it broadcasts the footage via Wi-Fi to the receiver. That's then broadcasted to an app on your smartphone or tablet. So it allows real-time footage of the target. You can record. You can be able to save images or send footage or pictures to somebody else using your device. The distance it can be set up to is 1 mile in length, and it runs for 6 hours. It is waterproof, so that's kind of nice. I mean, I know that I don't think any of us has really had to gotten to experience any target cameras. Is that right?
Yeah, nothing here. I just worry about. I'd want to put a steel plate in front of them so I wouldn't shoot it.
Yeah. So some of these other target models that I've seen, that they're the way that they're designed is that you could hide them behind some kind of plate, so that if there's any kind of errant shot, or you shoot real low and that kicks up a bunch of debris, rocks, and things, that it's not going to impact your precious electronic equipment. This is kind of like a huge stand that's on 3 legs. You've got like a little CCTV looking security camera on there that connects to the receiver. That's a whole lot of equipment to try and conceal and have not get blasted. So I mean, you might want to set this up. Maybe if you've got like some berms, you could set it up behind like the berm that's in front of that target. I don't know if the zoom, you can kind of compensate for setting it far away from your target by zooming in on your paper. But yeah, I kind of prefer this kind of system set up in a small box, like in the size of an ammo box that I could essentially put something in front of to deflect bullets, or else I'm going to blow a hole in it. Because, Murphy's Law, if you put something down range, it's going to get shot at.
Yeah, I like the idea of these things, but, that's kind of one of those things. It's like, well, does it actually say how many? It says it uses Wi-Fi, but how many yards is the Wi-Fi good for? I mean,
1 mile it says.
Yeah.
It says it's got long range Wi-Fi, and it does. The big green thing. Right. If you get onto the video, that's the antenna.
Right. So, if it works at 1 mile, I guess that's a plus. But if you're shooting 1,500 yards, geez, it doesn't take much to have an errant shot, like Ryan was saying.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
like he said, if you could set it up behind a berm or something, I could see how it would work better. But
Well, I would have to know what kind of zoom is available for it, because in the picture it's showing it right up on the target, but if you can set it back, 10 yards.
Even in the video, it kind of shows them fairly close to the target.
Yeah. So it's got a 6-hour run time. So if you had a rain session, you could set this thing outside and not have to run up and change out the batteries. 6 hours at the range is a pretty long time. I think everyone will agree on that. So it's got a fully contained housing that's waterproof, as well as protects from UV. You can stream the video in HD quality, which is kind of real nice. Obviously you'd want to speed it up a lot if you're taking slow incremental shots, because that's going to be some boring video. But at least this kind of helps for teaching classes to actually show results. Say you had you were shooting some reloads, and you were showing how better one group to the other, or different stances. How those groups shifted. Actually see the impacts on paper. That's pretty nice too.
Yeah,
it pretty much saves you from driving up the target every 15 minutes. Is all it really does.
So if I'm teaching a bunch of shooters that don't understand stance, wow.
What's that?
Hello? I said if I'm shooting students, I'm shooting with students. If I'm shooting with students that don't understand stance, changes bullet impact point, they're not shooting while my camera's downrange. They're that new to it.
Well, I like the very first comment on the Firearm blog website. It says, "I don't trust other shooters enough to put something $500 downrange." Yeah.
I'd barely trust him.
If I had my own range,
$100 steel downrange.
Right, exactly.
So the other thing, the design I noticed. Go ahead.
Oh, on my range, it's range 14. You have to have 200 yards minimum to put a steel target out. You walk out, you put your steel target out. By the time you get back and they resume firing, you haven't gotten behind your rifle yet, and all of a sudden you hear your steel target going ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I can see what happens to your camera at a range like that.
Yeah, and the other thing, if you shoot in a fairly windy environment where the gusts can get probably over 10 miles an hour or more, this thing you might want to put some sandbags down, because of how tall it is. The center of gravity would be a little bit high. I imagine the wind would be able to blow it over pretty easily. So you might want to rig something up, some sandbags to weigh it down. I'm surprised Caldwell didn't think of that. As many lead sleds as they have out now. Rig up something where you can at least rig up a sandbag to it to weigh it down. So you can use this in conjunction with their target holders. But yeah, besides that, I mean, if you've kind of been skeptical about getting into that game, and you kind of recognize the Coldwell name, that brand name gives you a little bit more confidence that, oh yeah, I wanted to try one. I guess I'll try this Caldwell one out. I guess you could try it, but we pretty much pointed out the biggest issue with that is that you will probably put a bullet with it if you don't put some cover. The nice thing is that the camera unit itself looks like it goes on some kind of Gorilla Pod adjustable armature. So if you need to kind of twist it around to be pointing at your target, that is nice that it comes with that. It's not like a rigid mount where you don't have the flexibility of adjusting your camera angle. It's another range toy.
Yep. I mean, anything to get people out to the range and shooting, or get people interested in shooting. we're crossing some technological lines here. My brother, who really couldn't give a damn about shooting, would be interested in the 1 mile range Wi-Fi camera aspect of it, and I'm sure he would love to go test something like that.
Yeah, I mean that also has uses on like non-shooting. I mean, you could use this if it records in real time. You could set this up by your deer stand, and so you're sitting in the warm truck, and you can check out to see if there's anything, on your deer stand, or see if anyone's in your deer stand, or I mean, it's got some other potential, but it is pretty pricey for just some kind of voyeuristic intent. So the app, you can download it. So I think there's an iTunes app as well as did it say if it had a Google Android app? I know it said iPhone or iPad. I'm not sure if it supports the Google platform or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it does yet, or I'm sure they'll have one.
Yeah, so it's called the Caldwell Target Camera. I found it on the iTunes platform. So it's free. Allows you to basically live stream the HD video, take pictures, record video, start-stop controls, calculate your group size when connected to your Caldwell long-range target camera. So I've got the link in the show notes that shows just kind of what that app is. You kind of pinch to zoom in, so it's kind of nice. You can zoom using the app. You can pan as well. So maybe if you had a couple targets set up and you're focused kind of on one, you could be able to pan to the other side of the target too. So yeah, I get that link in there if you guys want to take a look at that. It looks pretty, as far as the app design coming from a designer, that looks like somebody's like sketches or rough what the interface is going to look like. If that's what the interface truly looks like, then it looks like it's not complete. Maybe that's just me. So, anything else?
I'm good to go.
All right,
Me
good
too.
to go. So that's the end of this episode. I think next week we're just going to go back to talk about some good old-fashioned guns. So stay tuned for that. Listener feedback, we don't have any this week, so let's get into the second is for everyone diversity shoot. What's going on, Tony?
Hey, second is for everyone diversity shoot. It's coming up on the 7th of April. Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park, New Jersey. It's going to be a lot of fun this time. I'm speaking to a bunch of different vendors, sponsors, trying to get more and cooler stuff. I'm working on it really hard to change up what we're doing. I want to make this an event you want to go to, even if you're from out of state. So come check out some of the stuff. I got a auction that I'm going to be having, silent auction for a battle horse Comanche knife. That's going to be at the next Second is for Everyone shoot. Check it out on Second is for Everyone on Facebook or Simon Says Train on Instagram. I post pictures from the event, and I post pictures of some of the guns that will be available to shoot at the event that I own. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk about this every week.
Yeah.
And
you gotta get me your address after the show, because I'll send you some gear and some patches too. I've been meaning to do that.
Cool.
So
I appreciate that.
Don't let me forget it. So that's it for the show. Remember to send questions or comments to my new email, gungearreview. Go ahead, bud.
What I've been doing, one of the things I'm going to do this time, got a couple of patches that I'm going to slip into the goodie bag. So the first 20 people in, they get a chance to get some really cool patches. So I might do that with your patch, because you make some really good quality patches. And it gives people to show up on time, because 6 o'clock is kind of rough in that area of Jersey. And usually we have stragglers coming in at 7, and by then a lot of my guest speakers have already been up and, spoken. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people in at 6.
Oh,
so
yeah. The good old doorbuster technique works every time. So, other than that, questions or comments to gungearreview@gmail.com. Remember to subscribe and leave us an iTunes review. Check out all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network at firearmsradio.tv. And be sure to visit the new Firearms Insider website for reviews and industry coverage, and that's at firearmsinsider.tv. So, everyone have a good week, shoot safe, and stay dry, and I'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.
See you guys.
Peace.
Later, everybody.